The first thing you notice about Il Lanternino after midnight is not the music. It is the weight behind it. The speakers push out low, velvet bass. Glasses touch. People laugh too loudly, and 100 conversations fold over each other in the dark. That is what the paying crowd hears. Underneath all of it sits a quieter layer. The kind of silence that belongs to money that never shows on a payslip, to decisions made with a nod instead of a contract. It settles into the corners like smoke, even when the air is clean. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and comment where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories. And trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's go back to hours before, where it all started. I work inside that silence. The uniform helps me disappear. Black shirt, short sleeves, apron tied tight enough to remind me to stand straight. My hair pinned back. Pockets stocked with pens, receipts, and the cheap lighter I never seem to throw away. This job keeps the lights on in the apartment I share with Mateo. It keeps the medication cabinet from running empty. It keeps the landlord from asking questions about our parents' old debts. Nothing about it feels heroic. It is survival paid hourly. I keep 3 rules to make it through a shift. Move fast because slow staff draw eyes. Smile because a smile is easier to read than fear. Never stand still long enough to be noticed. It sounds simple until the wrong kind of man walks into the room. Then every rule begins to feel like a thin thread. I grew up around men like that. Not at Il Lanternino, but in a district where doors stayed locked even when people were home. A place where fights broke out for reasons no one explained to children. I used to watch the older boys brag about the marks they carried on their arms. My father called them warnings written in skin. He told me the only safe distance was far. Life did not let me stay far. Tonight the room shifts. It starts with a drop in volume. No one lowers the music. People simply speak less. The bartenders straighten. Security angles their shoulders toward the entrance. I turn and see why. Orazio Rizzo steps inside with 2 men behind him. He does not need to announce himself. His presence fills the space first. Some guests pretend not to see him. Others watch him too openly. Orazio is the kind of man whose name travels ahead of him. Across the waterfront he practically owns. I have heard the staff whisper about him. He handles problems without noise. He moves money through the city as if it were water, and he knew every channel. People say he inherited power young and kept it because he understands fear better than anger. He looks over the room once. His eyes are a deep green that reflect the dim light. Tattoos cover his hands, clean lines that spread over his knuckles like old symbols. He carries himself like someone who already knows every exit and is counting the people nearest to each one. He chooses a table in my section, not one of the private booths, which would have been expected, but a simple 2-seater near the center of the lounge. That one choice unsettles the entire staff. It means he wants to be seen. It means nothing about this night will be routine. He gives his order when I reach him. 1 whiskey, no ice. His voice is level, calm, the kind that does not need to raise itself to be heard. I nod and turn toward the bar. My pulse picks up in spite of myself. At the counter, I measure out the drink. The bottle tilts, the liquid folds into the glass, and the scent rises in a warm ribbon. Before I can reach for a napkin, Gallo's hand appears next to mine. The floor manager smiles too brightly. "I will take this one," he says. He does not wait for my reply. He lifts the glass with the same care people use to carry something fragile. His keys swing at his hip. A tiny metal vial hangs from the ring. I have seen it before, but never in use. Tonight, I see his thumb twisted open. I see 2 clear drops fall into the whiskey. They disappear the moment they touch the liquid. My breath catches. I look around, but no one else is close enough to notice. Gallo closes the vial with a small snap and turns away as if nothing happened. He walks toward Orazio's table with steady steps. His shoulders are tight with effort. A memory pushes through the noise. Awake from years ago. A cramped room, candles burning low, and old neighbors whispering about a man who died after 1 bad drink. I remember my father leaning down to tell me never to stand between powerful men, never to interfere, never to think you can outrun the consequences. I tell myself to listen to him. I tell myself to stay out. Mateo needs me. Our landlord will not care about excuses. The hospital will not pause a bill because I grew a conscience. I press my palms against the counter and try to breathe evenly. It does not help. Gallo is almost to the table. Orazio sits relaxed, one hand resting on the arm of the chair. He looks like someone who could see through walls. I know what will happen when he takes that glass. I know enough about these circles to understand that poison is not used for small matters. Someone wants him gone. Someone inside this place. I do something reckless. I grab another glass. I pour a second whiskey, matching the first down to the angle of the bottle. My hands shake. I tell myself to move fast anyway. I take a small order slip, fold it once, and write 2 words on the inside. Do not drink. By the time I step onto the floor, Gallo has placed the first glass in front of Orazio. The manager stays near the table as if waiting to see the result. Too close. Too eager. I walk straight toward them, eyes fixed on the tray to avoid drawing attention. When I reach the table, I speak through a polite smile. Apologies. Wrong pour at the bar. This one is yours. I set the clean glass down and slide the folded note just beside his hand. I lift the poisoned drink without meeting Gallo's eyes. Before anyone can question me, I turn away and pretend to adjust the items on my tray. A beat of silence follows. A strange, stretched moment when I feel watched from every direction. I risk a glance. Orazio has opened the note. His expression does not move. He reads it once, closes it with his fingers, and raises his eyes to me. Something changes behind them. The weight in the room gathers around us. He reaches out and closes his hand around my wrist. The touch is firm, but not rough. It sends a cold wave through my chest. Every conversation seems to fall away. It feels as if he has pulled me into a smaller world where only the 2 of us exist. Why should I listen to you? He asks quietly. My mouth goes dry. I am aware of Gallo watching, the staff stiffening, the guards shifting near the door. Orazio studies me with a focus that leaves no space for lies. I cannot look away. His grip tightens slightly, not enough to hurt, but enough to make sure I understand that this moment will decide the rest of the night. Maybe more than the night. He calls out without raising his voice. Gallo. The floor manager steps closer, trying to hide the tremor in his hands. Orazio does not release me. He keeps his eyes on my face as he speaks to one of his men behind him. Prepare the car. The guard nods and leaves the room. The music continues, but the night no longer feels the same. I know with absolute certainty that nothing about my life will stay the same either. Orazio still has my wrist when he looks at the poison glass. It sits there, untouched, catching the light. He reaches out with his free hand and slides it a little farther from him, as if it is nothing more than an empty decoration. He does not push it away in a panic. He does not make a scene. He simply refuses to drink from it, and that small choice tells me he believes me. Then he stands. The movement is smooth. He releases my wrist and rises in a way that says he is finished here, nothing more. Chairs scrape softly nearby as guests shift, pretending not to stare. The staff look toward Gallo. No one steps in. Orazio adjusts his jacket and glances at the room, the same quick inventory he made when he arrived. To any stranger, it looks like a man who has decided his night is over. To me, the air between him and Gallo has turned sharp. Thank you for the service, he says. The words are polite, meant for the room. His eyes are not. Gallo steps forward, smiling too wide. Of course, signore. I hope everything was to your liking. Almost, Orazio replies. He leaves the poison glass on the table. His men fall in beside him. One of them gestures at me with a short nod. Come with us, he says. It is not a request. My feet move before my mind catches up. We cross the floor together, past tables where the laughter has grown forced. The bass still rolls through the speakers, but the rhythm has changed. People talk in low voices, as if the volume might draw trouble. At the edge of the lounge, another guard steps in behind me. I'm boxed in, guided toward the staff corridor. The door swings open on hinges that squeak more than they should. Warm light from the lounge gives way to dull strip bulbs and the smell of cleaning supplies. My head feels strangely light. Shock has dulled the edges of fear, leaving everything slightly distant. I know these corridors better than the front of the house. I know the scuff tiles, the emergency exit signs, the spot where the ceiling always leaks after a storm. Tonight, they feel narrower. Wait, I manage. I have to check out. I still have a shift. I did not do anything wrong. One of the guards, the taller one with a scar on his jaw, looks down at me without slowing. You made yourself useful, he says. Now you keep walking. We pass the staff lockers. I catch sight of Lena, another waitress, peeking from behind the break room door. Her eyes widen when she sees the guards flanking me. Lena, I start, but Gallo appears from the side corridor, cutting me off. Back inside, he tells her. His tone is firm in a way I have never heard him use on customers. This is a private matter. The signore is unhappy with a mistake. Nothing more. Lena hesitates, torn between curiosity and fear. In the end, fear wins. The door closes. Gallo falls in a step with us, his face tight and shiny with sweat. Sandra, you should have told me you were nervous serving that table, he says loudly, as if performing for the guards. When a VIP is involved, you come to me first. You know that. He is building a story before the truth can breathe. A clumsy one, but enough to cover him in case anyone asks. We reach the service exit. The metal door is heavy and always sticks near the top. The guard with the scar shoves it open with one solid push. Cold air rushes in, damp and sharp. Outside, the alley glows with neon reflected in wet pavement. It must have rained while we were inside. Water gathers in shallow puddles that catch the red and blue light from the signs above. The sound of the city filters in, distant horns and the hiss of tires on wet streets. A dark car waits at the mouth of the alley, headlights off. Another guard stands by the rear door, coat collar turned up. I realize then that Orazio did not come here to relax. He came ready for whatever the night decided to throw at him. He turns to Gallo. Busy night, he asks. Gallo laughs too quickly. Always busy when you honor us with a visit. If something was not to your taste, I will make sure it never happens again. Orazio watches him. The rain catches in his hair and on his lashes, but he does not blink. Behind that calm expression, something hardens. Quality control is important, he says, in every part of the operation. We will talk about it another time. There is no accusation in his voice, only a promise. Gallo hears it. His smile falters for a heartbeat, then returns thinner. Of course, signore, he says. Anytime. Orazio turns away first. That is his final mercy for the night. He gestures toward the car and looks at me. And he says, the guard at the door opens it, waiting. I do not move. I told you what I saw. I say. My voice shakes more than I want it to. I warned you. I should be going home, not getting into cars with strangers who have their own security details. The guard behind me steps closer. Listen, he says quietly, so only I can hear. You think you can walk back in there after this? Whoever wanted him dead is not going to forget the girl who changed the drinks. He is right. The realization lands on top of everything else. Whoever slipped that vial onto Gallo's key ring, whoever made sure it would be used tonight, will know something went wrong. They will look for the weak point. That would be me. You are safer with us than out here alone, the guard adds. I do not know if that is true. It still feels like the only option that does not end immediately badly. My legs move. I slide into the back seat. The interior smells of leather and faint cologne. The space feels too close. Orazio follows and sits beside me, leaving almost no gap between us. The door thuds shut. Outside, the alley falls away as if someone has severed a line. The driver pulls out with smooth control. The car merges onto the main street, swallowed by lights and motion. Rain streaks the windows in slanting lines. For a moment, no one speaks. Then Orazio turns his head toward me. Tell me exactly what you saw, he says. His questions come clipped and precise. Who handled the bottle before me? How long the glass sat on the counter? Where Gallo stood? How many drops fell? Whether anyone else was close enough to notice. He does not ask how I feel about it. That part is irrelevant to him. I answer, but I keep my sentences short. Gallo took the glass. The vial is on his keys. 2 drops. Clear. No one else right there. My voice sounds flat in my own ears. I am careful. I do not talk about the stories I heard as a child. I do not mention my father's warnings or the way that Wake smelled of cheap wine and bad luck. He studies me as I speak, as if my words are one part of the information and my breathing is another. You reacted fast, he says at last. Most people would have frozen. I work around people who drink too much and shout too loudly, I reply. You learn to move quickly or you get crushed. That is not what I mean. His gaze sharpens. You recognize what Gallo did and how quickly it would work. That is not ordinary. The city outside shifts as we leave the busier streets. The bright signs thin out, replaced by older buildings and softer light. I know this area, but we keep driving. The landmarks I recognize fall behind us, and my stomach tightens. Someone I knew used to handle security for men who did not like surprises. I say finally. I learned some things without wanting to. Someone you knew, he repeats. Family. An uncle, I admit. My father's younger brother. He worked in places where one bad drink can end an argument forever. He liked to talk when he came home late. I watch his hands as I speak. They rest on his knees, relaxed. He listens without interrupting. So you learn to read a room, he says. To spot who is nervous, who is lying, who is about to pull something they should not. I learn to see when something is wrong. I answer. That is different. Not very, he says. The car continues to climb. I feel it in the slight pull on my back, the way the engine hums a little harder. We are heading up, away from the waterfront, toward the hill that looks over the city. I have never had a reason to go there. Neon gives way to softer, warmer streetlights. The noise of the traffic drops. Houses appear behind walls and hedges, most of them with gates and cameras that look like unblinking metal eyes. We are far from Il Lanternino now. I say under my breath. That is the point, Orazio replies. The car turns through an opening in a high stone wall. A gate slides shut behind us with a quiet mechanical whir. Inside the compound, the air feels still, as if the noise from the city cannot cross the boundary. We roll to a stop in front of a townhouse that looks more like a private fortress than a home. 3 stories, narrow windows, pale stone that catches the weak light. Cameras sit at each corner of the roof. 2 guards wait by the front steps, standing straight despite the rain. The driver gets out first. Then one of the guards opens my door. Cool air brushes my face as I step down. The ground is dry here. Someone has taken the time to clear the water away. You brought me to your house, I say, surprised at how small my voice sounds. One of them, he corrects. That should not be comforting, and it is not. He leads the way up the short flight of steps. I walk beside him, flanked by guards. The front door is heavy, reinforced, with a coated panel beside the handle. One of the men taps in a sequence from memory. The lock clicks. We step inside. The hallway smells of polished wood and faint smoke. Light spills from recessed fixtures along the ceiling. It is quiet, the kind of quiet that belongs to thick walls and good insulation. Somewhere deep in the building, I hear the low hum of equipment, perhaps a generator or security system. The guard closes the door behind us. The sound of the lock sliding into place is louder than it needs to be. It settles in my chest like a stone. For a second, I think of the staff entrance at Il Lanternino. The batter time clock on the wall where we punch in and out. The little freedom in knowing that at the end of a shift, you can always push open a simple door and walk back into the street. Here, there is no time clock, no sign-out sheet. I have stepped into another kind of cage, one where the bars are made of money and control, and the kind of power my father never wanted in our house. Orazio stops in the hallway and turns to face me. His expression is calm, but his eyes have lost the softness they sometimes showed to the paying crowd. We stay here until I understand what happened tonight, he says. Until I know who thought they could use my drink to send me a message. The guards wait, silent, watching both of us. He takes a step closer. I can see the small scar near his left eye, the faint shadow of stubble on his jaw, the patience in the way he holds himself. When he speaks next, his voice leaves no room for misunderstanding. If you lie to me, he says, both of us will die. The words land with quiet weight. Not shouted, not dramatic. Just a simple fact placed on the floor between us. My throat feels dry. I nod because I cannot think of anything else to do. The guard behind him do not move. They do not react, but I see the way their posture tightens, as if this warning is as much for them as for me. Good, he says. Come. He turns and walks down the hallway. One guard gestures for me to follow. There is no point pretending I have a choice. I move. The townhouse is a corridor of polished floors and pale walls, broken by heavy doors and discreet cameras set high at the corners. It feels built for watching more than living. We pass a sitting room with clean lines and low furniture, a study with shelves of neat files, and a stairway that curves up toward the higher floors. At the top of the stairs, he stops at the second door on the left and opens it. Inside is a guest room. Not small, not large. Neutral. A bed with crisp white sheets. A wardrobe. A chair by the window. A lamp on a narrow bedside table. There is a small bathroom through an open door, its tiles pale and spotless. Everything is tidy. Ordered. I step closer to the window. The glass is clear, but the frame hides metal bars set into the masonry outside. High enough that you could miss them at first glance. Heavy enough that you would never break them. In the corner of the ceiling, a small black camera watches the room with its blank eye. So this is protection, I say. It is also security, he answers. The two things are not always different. A guard holds out his hand. My phone lies in his palm, screen dark. I grab it out of habit, fingers closing around the cool case. I need this, I say. My brother will be waiting. The bar will think I've vanished in the middle of a shift. I have to tell someone where I am. No, Horatio says. You cannot contact anyone. Not until I know who played with my drink and how far it reaches. He nods at the guard. Take it. I could grip the phone tighter, make a scene, but the camera in the corner sees everything. The two guards in the doorway watch without expression. I unclench my hand. The phone leaves my palm. You will have what you need, he says. Food, clothes, a bed. You will be guarded at all times. You do not try the doors without asking. You do not test the windows. If you need something, you tell the man outside. If I ask a question, you answer fully. That is how we both stay alive. You really think they will come after me? I say. I think whoever arranged that vial will want to know why I'm still breathing, he replies. And they will ask the same question I did. Who warned me? He looks me over like he did at the club, measuring angles. Get clean up, he says. Then come downstairs. We need to walk through tonight. Every second of it. He leaves. The guards follow. The door closes. I hear the lock turn from the outside. For a moment, I just stand in the middle of the room, listening to the hum of the building. Air vents, distant steps, the low buzz of hidden systems. I sit on the bed, feel the firmness of the mattress, then force myself up again. If I lie down now, I will not get up. I wash my face in the bathroom, cold water and harsh light, until my reflection looks less like a shaken waitress and more like someone who might think clearly. Then I open the door. A guard waits in the hallway, leaning against the wall. He straightens when he sees me. Dining room, he says. This way. We go back downstairs, past the same framed photographs I did not really see on the way up. All of them are landscapes. No people. No family. The dining table is long and simple, dark wood, with only two chairs pulled out. In front of one sits a notebook with a leather cover, a pen, and a folded sketch of Il Lanternino's floor plan. Horatio is already there. He has removed his jacket. His shirt sleeves are rolled to his forearms. His expression is calmer, but the focus in his eyes has not softened. He gestures to the chair opposite. Sit. I do. The guard takes a position by the door, folding his hands in front of him. We will go through what happened, Horatio says. Step by step. You tell me where everyone was, what they did, what they said, even if it feels unimportant. Let me decide what matters. He opens the notebook, where he has already written my name, the date, and a few short lines. His handwriting is small and strict. No flourishes. He spreads the sketch of the lounge between us. I recognize the bar, the raised seating, the path to the staff corridor. He taps the section where he sat. Start from when I came in, he says. So I do. I tell him about the moment the room grew quiet, about the guards behind him, the way security shifted toward the entrance, the whispers among the staff. He asks where Gallo stood when he first arrived, and I point to the spot by the bar, near the service door. He writes, "Not every word, but enough to build a skeleton of the night. Times, positions, names." "When did you first go to the bar after my order?" he asks. "Less than a minute," I say. The song had just changed. The new track ran maybe 30 seconds before I picked up the bottle. He notes it down. "Anyone else at the bar?" "The usual regulars," I say. "The man with the gray suit who leaves too much cash to impress people. The couple from the hotel, the woman with the red heels. The bartender, obviously." He had switched to the tall shaker by then. His eyes lift. "You remember the shoes." "I remember a lot of things," I say. "He'll slip on that floor if the staff do not keep it dry. I watch for them." I described Gallo's movements. How he passed behind me, how long the glass sat unattended, how many times he checked his watch. 3. Once as you ordered, once when I poured, once as he walked to the table. The details come without effort. They have lived in my head since the moment I saw the vial open. He listens, only interrupting to clarify when I point at the wrong corner of the sketch or forget a name. Between questions, I catch glimpses of the man beneath the title. He does not pace or hit the table. He keeps still. His temper is a cold thing, held tightly in one hand. Once, when I mentioned a waiter who had not restocked the clean glassware and left a gap on the shelf, he clicks his tongue. "Sloppy," he says. Small things like that kill people in certain lines of work. He does not say which line of work he means. He does not need to. "Why are you so sure about the vial?" he asks at last. "Plenty of people carry things on their keys. Perfume, medicine, stupid charms." You did not hesitate. You saw it open and you knew. I knew. That is true. The moment the drops fell, the memory came with them. Someone in my family used to work the kind of jobs that do not show up in tax returns. I say slowly. An uncle. When I was younger, I stayed up too late one night and saw him at our kitchen table with a bottle that did not belong to us. I looked down at my hands. They grip each other under the table. He had a little vial, like Gallo's. He thought I was asleep. He poured something into the bottle, shook it, whistled to himself. My father came in, saw what he was doing, and threw the bottle in the sink. They fought. It was the only time I ever saw my father put his hands on him. I remember the crash of glass, the low voices, the white of my father's face in the dim light. Later, there was a funeral, I say. A man from a bar not far from ours. People said his heart just stopped. Others said it was one bad drink. My father told me some men solve problems through bottles. He told me to stay away from them. "And your uncle?" Orazio asks. "Left town," I say. That is what my mother told me. I never saw him again. "And your father?" I hesitate. The words taste like something I have chewed for years and never swallowed. "He died without answers," I say. Wrong place, wrong night. The kind of case that gets a file number and dust. I always thought if I'd spoken up about what I saw at that table years before, maybe it would have changed something. Maybe not. It does not matter now. The guilt is an old ache, but saying it aloud makes it feel new again. So when I saw Gallo's hand and that vial, I knew I finish. And I knew that if I stayed quiet this time, I would not be able to live with it. For a moment, the room falls into a stillness that is different from the one in Il Lanternino. There is no music here to cover it. Only the faint ticking of a clock in another room. He closes the notebook. "You listen to your father more than you think," he says. "He told you not to get involved. You got involved anyway, but you picked the right side of the bottle." That almost sounds like humor. Dry and thin, but there. He stands, signaling the end of the session. "That is enough for tonight," he says. "We will continue in the morning. You will be escorted back to your room. Do not try the doors. I have already seen the bars," I say. His mouth twitches, not quite a smile. "Good. Then we understand each other." The guard leads me upstairs again. The hallway feels longer this time, as if the house has stretched while we talked. In the room, I wait for the click of the lock. It comes. Night has deepened outside. The city below lies in patches of yellow and white, stitched together by dark streets. I test the window anyway, fingers under the frame, pushing. It does not move. The bars outside sit solid in their stone. I check the door. It holds. The camera in the corner continues its mute watch. I move back and forth for a while, tracing the same few steps between bed, chair, and window, like an animal testing the fence. Eventually, I sit on the floor by the wall, knees pulled to my chest, trying to slow my thoughts. The house is quieter now. Fewer steps. No low murmur of staff. After a while, a sound drifts through the ceiling. A voice. Horacios. I stand and move toward the door, not close enough to cast a shadow underneath, but near enough to catch some words through the wall. His tone is low, controlled. Gallo knew the timing. He says, he had access to the bar, the key ring, the staff schedules. Another voice answers, muffled. I cannot make out the words. No, he is not clever enough to plan it alone, Horatio replies. Someone gave him that vial. Someone told him when I would be there. Either another family or an outsider with a grudge who thinks this city is open ground. There's a pause. Then, softer, we start with his habits. Who he calls, who he meets after closing. I want to know who is stupid enough to try and send me a message in my own drink. The rest becomes too faint to follow. But it is enough. Gallo's face rises in my mind, shiny with fear in the alley. Whatever comes next for him will not be gentle. I go back to the window. The city lights look smaller from this height, like something that belongs to someone else. Somewhere in that glowing maze are Mateo, our cramped apartment, the bar's cheap time clock, my entire life before tonight. None of them know where I am. No one at Il Lanternino will call the police about a missing waitress who left with a VIP. They will shrug and assume I got a better offer or made a bad choice. Down there, whoever ordered that poisoned drink is still moving pieces. Up here, the only person standing between them and me is the man who calmly promised that if I lie, we both die. A knock at the door breaks the thought. Yes, I say, standing. The lock turns. One of the guards opens the door just enough to slip something inside. A small rectangle, black, fits in his hand. He hands it to me. From a boss, he says. It is a phone. New, clean, unfamiliar. When I press the button, the screen lights up with a bare homepage. Almost nothing installed. No messages. No apps that lead out into the world. I open a contacts list. There is only one name. Horatio. I close the phone and set it on the bedside table. The screen goes dark, but the feeling of that single word stays. Like someone has folded my entire world into one fragile point and told me not to drop it. At some point, exhaustion drags me under. The night fills with jagged dreams. Bottles shatter, water runs red in the sink. My father stands at the kitchen table with his hands braced on the edge, saying my name in a voice I cannot quite hear. When I jerk awake, there is no noise. No neighbor's argument, no vendor shouting, no sirens sliding past the window. The silence here is deep and padded, the kind that comes from distance and thick walls. Morning light filters through the bars outside, pale and even. For a moment, I forget where I am. Then I sit up, and the guest room comes into focus. Neat, controlled, watching. Someone has left clean clothes at the foot of the bed. Simple jeans, a soft shirt, a sweater that fits better than anything in my wardrobe at home. I shower, dress, and stare at my reflection. The bruised circles under my eyes have faded to shadows. The girl who clocked in at Il Lanternino last night looks far away. There is a knock. Come in, I say. A guard opens the door. Kitchen, he says. He is waiting. The hallway smells of coffee and something warm from the oven. It is so quiet that our footsteps sound too loud. The kitchen at the end of the corridor is not as formal as the dining room. It feels more lived in. A large table sits in the center, a pan of eggs on the stove, a basket of bread on the counter. Horatio sits at the table with a mug in front of him. No jacket, just a dark sweater. It looks like he has been awake for hours. Sit, he says. There are 2 plates already set. One on his side, one opposite. I lower myself into the chair. A second later, a house staff member I have not seen before appears, places eggs and toast on my plate, then vanishes with quiet efficiency. For a time, we eat in silence. The food tastes real in a way that surprises me. Fresh eggs, good bread, coffee strong enough to cut through the leftover fog in my head. How old is your brother? He asks at last. The question is so ordinary that it catches me off balance. 20, I say. Too much pride. Not enough cartilage in his knee. Football injury, he guesses. I nod. Torn ligament. Surgery was supposed to fix the pain. It did not. Now he needs medication to manage it while he waits for another doctor to take him seriously. And your parents are gone, he says, not quite asking. Yes. He studies me over the rim of his mug. How did you end up at Il Lanternino? A friend, a poster, a mistake. A necessity, I say. The lounge pays better than grocery shelves and hotel laundry. A girl from my street knew someone on staff, said I had the right look and strong legs. I told myself I would do it for a year. 2 at most. Long enough to patch the worst of the holes. You lasted longer, he says. Life kept ripping new ones. He almost smiles. Almost. A faint trace that softens his eyes for half a second. The moment breaks when footsteps sound in the corridor. A man in a tailored suit appears at the doorway. Medium height, careful hair, an expression that suggests he is used to bringing problems wrapped in folders. Rinaldi, Orazio says by way of introduction. He handles details that bore me. Rinaldi inclines his head. Buongiorno. He carries a slim laptop and a leather folder, which he places on the table between us with quiet precision. You ask for an overview. My stomach tightens. I do not like being on the receiving end of an overview. Orazio wipes his hands on a napkin and opens the folder. Inside is a stack of documents. Some bear the lounge's logo. Others show bank headers I recognize from envelopes I never wanted to open. He scans the top page, then slides it toward me. It is a copy of the contract I signed when I started at Il Lanternino. My signature looks smaller than I remember. You live here, he says, tapping the listed address. You owe this much to the landlord in back rent. This much to a loan broker who works 3 streets over. And this, he taps another figure, to the lounge itself for an advance you took last year. He creeps up my neck. I did not tell him any of this. I told myself no one really knew, apart from the people who kept their hand around my throat. How did you get that? I ask. Rinaldi answers, voice mild. Public records. Private calls. Some numbers that pick up when they see mine. People talk when you clear their ledger. Clear, I repeat. Orazio leans back slightly. Your tab with the broker is gone. The lounge advance is recorded as paid. The landlord has received enough to stop considering your door a target for eviction this month. The words take a second to settle. You paid my debts, I say. I settled obligations, he corrects. In exchange, Illinois Lanternino has been encouraged to list you as resigned. Effective yesterday. You're off their staff. Your name is out of their paperwork. I grip the edge of the table. Encouraged how? In ways that keep the peace, he says. That is my business, not yours. Relief and panic slam into each other inside my chest. The weight of those numbers that used to wake me at 3 in the morning is suddenly gone, leaving a strange lightness. At the same time, the job that held my routine together has been cut cleanly from my life without anyone asking what I wanted. You did not have the right, I say quietly. He looks at me, unblinking. The moment you slid that note across my table, you stepped into my world. In my world, leaving loose ends is an invitation for trouble. You cannot go back to pouring drinks in a place where someone already tried to kill me. You will be a walking target. They might not even know it was me who warned you. I argue. They will, he says. Men who plan that kind of move always look for the leak. It would not take them long to trace the path of the glass. I refuse to protect a person who insists on walking back into the gunfire. I push my plate away. My appetite is gone. So instead you lock me up and erase my life. You had a life built on overdue bills and threats, he says, voice still calm. I remove the threats. You are welcome. Matteo is there. I snap. My brother. My home. My things. My name. You cannot just rearrange them because it suits the way you like your world organized. Rinaldi opens the laptop, perhaps to avoid staring openly at the argument. His fingers tap softly on the keys. A cover story is in progress, he says without looking up. For anyone who asks, the official line is that you receive an offer abroad through a family contact. Better pay, better conditions. Reasonable distance. You sent word to the lounge, thanked them, moved on. That is what the staff will say when questioned. So, I am dead and replaced by a rumor. I say, no, Orazio says, you're difficult to reach. That is different. I stand because I cannot keep sitting still. The chair scrapes back. The guard by the door straightens, but does not move. I did what I thought was right, I say. I warned you because I did not want blood on my hands again. I did not sign up to be collected like an asset. He watches me with that same measured gaze he turned on the poisoned glass. You also did not sign up to die in a crossfire meant for me, he says. Yet that is what would happen if you kept serving drinks under the same roof as the man with the vial. Decisions have consequences, Sandra. Sometimes they close doors you liked. I want to hit something. Instead, I swallow it down. I'm going back to my room, I say, before I say something that makes you decide both of us should die sooner. His mouth shifts in what might almost be respect. Go, he says. We are done for now. I leave the kitchen without waiting for a guard to escort me. He follows anyway. The stairs feel steeper than before. Inside the room, the door closes. The lock turns. This time I do not test it. I sit on the bed and press my palms to my eyes until stars bloom behind my lids. Mateo's face swims up in my mind, laughing on the couch at some terrible show, grimacing as he presses an ice pack to his knee, frowning at the rent receipt. What will he think when I do not come home tonight? Tomorrow? Next week? Will someone from the building tell him I took a job abroad? Will he believe it? Or will he sit in that cramped apartment and think his sister walked away without looking back? The tightness in my chest finally cracks. I curl on my side and let the tears come, silent and hot, soaking the pillow. They taste of anger and loss and something like relief, tangled together so tightly I cannot pull them apart. When the worst of it passes, I'll lie staring at the ceiling. The camera in the corner blinks once. I wonder if he is watching, if he saw me break, or if he has more important things to do than monitor the girl he just relocated like a pawn. Eventually, there is another knock. Come in, I say, my voice rough. This time it is not a guard. It is Orazio himself. He steps inside without waiting for permission, closes the door behind him, and leans lightly against it. He does not comment on my red eyes. We need to talk about Matteo, he says. That would be new, I mutter. He chooses not to react. Your brother will not be left alone with questions, he says. A trusted intermediary will visit him. An old friend of your father, according to the story. He will explain that you have taken a better paid job overseas. There will be money, regularly, enough to cover rent, medication, and more. My heartbeat stutters. From you, he corrects. Officially, as far as records show, this is your income, sent home like any other migrant worker. The details are already being arranged. I sit up. You expect me to be grateful. No, he says. I expect you to understand that your family will be safer this way. Anyone looking for leverage over you will find a young man with secure payments and a believable explanation. No one will connect him to what happened in a private lounge last night. Relief expands slowly in my chest, impossible to fully trust. Matteo will not be left staring at an empty fridge and an empty doorway. At the same time, the chain around my life tightens. He has not only cut me off from my old world, he has woven himself into the only part of it that truly matters. You save people by owning them, I say quietly. I secure variables by investing in them, he replies. It is efficient. Sentiment is optional. He moves to the doorway again. Rinaldi will check in later with some papers for you to review. New identification in progress. New account. You will sign where he tells you. That is not a choice, I say. No, he agrees. It is not. He leaves. The lock clicks again, softer this time, as if the house itself is getting used to my presence. Hours pass in a slow drift. I pace, sit, stare at the phone with its single contact. Part of me wants to call the number just to see what he says when he answers. Another part refuses to give him that sense of control. When Rinaldi arrives, he comes with a folder and a notepad. He explains the cover story in polite, measured tones. Work abroad. Contract length. Scheduled transfers. He shows me the name that will appear on the paperwork. Mine, with a middle initial altered as if by clerical error. Enough to create distance without breaking the link. You adapt quickly, Signorina, he says at one point. Not everyone could sit here and talk about new birth certificates an hour after losing an old life. I have practice, I say. Things disappear where I come from. Jobs. People. You learn not to scream every time. At the end, he slips a single sheet from the folder and hesitates. There is one more update, he says, glancing at the camera, as if considering how much to say. Your former manager, Gallo. He left the lounge after closing. He has not been seen since. A cold thread winds through my spine. What does that mean? Rinaldi's expression does not change, but his voice lowers a fraction. The police were alerted this morning to a body near the old rail yards. There are signs of suicide. A note. A bottle. The usual staging. Staging, I repeat. Men like that rarely choose their own exits, he says. Someone wanted the story to look simple. I picture the vial on his key ring. The clear drops falling into the glass. The sweat on his brow in the alley. Who found him? I ask. Someone who was meant to, Rinaldi says. For now, let us say that the ledger is adjusting itself. He gathers his papers, gives me a small, formal nod, and leaves. The room feels smaller when the door closes. I move to the window, pressing my fingers to the cool glass, looking out at the distant city lights. Somewhere down there, a man who tried to poison my captor has been arranged to look like he killed himself. My brother sits in our tiny apartment, waiting for news that will come in the form of a lie and an envelope of cash. Behind me, on the bedside table, the new phone lies silent. One name, one number, one man who has just proven he can erase debts, erase jobs, erase people, and call it all balance paid. Gallo's face will not leave my mind. Sweaty in the alley. The quick movement of his thumb on the vial. The half-smile when he thought he had done something clever. Somewhere near the rail yard, he is lying on cold ground, arranged to look like he chose that ending himself. I tell myself he tried to kill someone, that his hands tipped those drops into the glass, that if he had been more careful, no one would have known. It does not stop the guilt from curling at the edges of my thoughts. I saw the vial. I knew what it meant. I warned one man and not the other. You cannot save everyone, my father used to say when the world closed in on our street. You choose what you can live with. I'm still not sure I chose correctly. A knock comes, sharp and firm. Come in, I say. The guard opens the door. Study, he says. He wants you there. The house feels different today. Tighter, as if the walls themselves know that someone outside has made a move. The corridor to the study is lined with framed photographs of harbors and ships taken in different light. No faces, no stories, just places where deals might be made. Inside the study, heavy shelves hold rows of files. A broad desk sits by the window. On it lies a neat spread of objects. Stacks of printed stills, a tablet, a notebook, pens. The air smells faintly of old paper and coffee. Orazio stands behind the desk, sleeves rolled again, tie absent. His face is set. He does not waste time. You heard about Gallo. Rinaldi told me. I say. Rail yard. Staged note. Staged bottle. The people behind him clean up loose ends, he says. That is all you need to understand for now. I fold my arms. He tried to poison you. Why does it feel like I am the one on trial for caring? You feel guilty because you are not a killer, he says. You also feel guilty because you think if you had warned him, he might still be alive. That is sentiment arguing with reality. Reality, I repeat. If you were alone in that city right now, he says, looking straight at me. If you had gone home and clocked in tonight at the lounge, they would already be looking for you. Whoever is cleaning the trail would not leave the girl who switched the glasses. Gallo's death is your proof. This is what they do to people who know too much. They do not offer second chances. He lets that settle, then gestures to the chair opposite. Sit, he says. We use this instead of your conscience. It is more useful. I sit. On the desk in front of me, a series of photographs has been laid out in a rough grid. Security camera stills in grainy color. Angles of the lounge, the bar, doorways, blurred figures caught mid-step. You had cameras in there, I say. I have eyes in most places where my name circulates, he answers. Sometimes they are attached to people, sometimes to walls. We are going to match what you remember to what I can see. He picks up a marker and draws a simple layout on a sheet of paper. Bar, seating, corridor to the staff area. He marks the next where he sat, then another where Gallo stood when he brought the drink. You told me about the regulars, he says. The man in the gray suit. The couple with the red heels. I want you to walk me through the rest of the room. Not the noise. The faces. For a while it is repetition. I point to figures in the stills, naming those I recognize, describing those I do not. He writes down short notes. Business group, possibly finance. Tourists. Local pair, frequent. My mind settles into a rhythm. Scan, recall, speak. Then we reach a frame that makes something flicker at the back of my skull. It is a shot of the side seating. The angle is bad. The camera catches the backs of chairs, a sliver of a wall, the dark square of the service doorway that leads to the storage room and the alley. A man sits alone at the table closest to that doorway. He has a pale overcoat on despite the warm air. His posture is relaxed. His face is turned slightly away from the camera, but his attention is not on the room. It is on the staff path. I lean in. The feeling sharpens. What is it? Orazio asks. I remember him. I say slowly. He never ordered anything. Sat there for most of the night with an empty glass in front of him. Kept looking at the corridor instead of the stage. He slides another still next to the first. Same angle, different time. The man is in the same seat. In one frame, he is looking down as if at his hands. In another, his gaze is lifted, following someone invisible to the camera. Coat, Orazio says. Inside, past midnight. Unusual. There is more, I say. It is faint, but I can feel it. He waits. I close my eyes, breathing in slow, chasing the half-formed image. Pale coat. Service doorway. Gallo moving past with his key ring. At some point between orders, I went by with an empty tray. I remember thinking that the man in the coat had nice hands. Strange thought on a busy night, but it stuck because of something that glinted. A ring. Silver. On the right hand. Not a simple band. Something carved into it. I saw his hand, I say, when he reached out to Gallo. Reached how? Orazio asks. His pen is in his fingers again, poised. There was a moment by the service doorway. I say, opening my eyes. Gallo came from the office side. The man in the coat was getting up as if to leave. They met halfway. He slid something across to him, like an envelope. Small, sealed. I saw it in the reflection of the glassware on my tray. And the ring. It had an engraving. A bird, I think. Wings spread. I could only see it backward in the reflection. He goes completely still. A bird, he repeats. You are sure? I am sure of the reflection, I say. I thought it was a dove at first. Then later, when I was trying to sleep, I thought maybe it looked more like a crow. Dark. Angry. The detail is fuzzy. Orazio moves to the cabinet by the wall. He unlocks a drawer I had not noticed before and pulls out a flat box. Inside are several old folders and an envelope. He brings them to the desk. Look here, he says. He fans out printed photographs across the table. Some are surveillance shots of men shaking hands in parking garages. Others look like passport photos cropped too tight. In 3 of them, a hand is visible near the edge. Always the right hand. Always the same ring. The bird is clear in these images. Wings outstretched, head turned to the side like it is listening to a distant signal. The metal around it is scratched from wear, but the engraving is sharp. This, I say, that is what I saw, only reversed. On the glass. He exhales once, a sound that is not quite a sigh. Victor, he says, also called the Stormbird. The name is unfamiliar, but carries weight. Who is he? I ask. A fixer, Orazio says. He gathers the photos into a neat line, as if that will keep the man contained. He arranges accidents. House fires caused by faulty wiring when the wiring was not faulty yesterday. Car crashes on empty roads. Heart attacks in people who had perfect checkups a month earlier. He is good at cleaning scenes so that the story looks natural to anyone who does not know where to look. He does not belong to a single family. He belongs to whoever can afford him and whoever interests him. So he could be working for you. I say, if I had hired him, you would not be sitting here, Orazio says very calmly. And neither would I. We look at the photographs. In one, Victor stands near a doorway at some private event, pale coat, watching the room with detached interest. He is not handsome enough to draw a second glance. That is his advantage. His face fades easily in memory. His ring does not. If he was in that lounge, I say, Then he gave Gallows something. The envelope. Instructions. Maybe money. Victor rarely hands over cash himself, Orazio says. He prefers things he can deny. But if he touched Gallows' hand, it was not an accident. He was marking him, watching him from the inside of the room, not the outside. That means this was not a casual betrayal. This was a contract, placed by someone who wanted me gone without making noise. I swallow. And now that it failed, now he will study the mess, Orazio says. He will wonder if it was the wrong poison, the wrong dose, the wrong messenger, or the wrong timing. He will adjust. That is what stormbirds do. They circle, then they strike again when the wind is better. A chill crawls on my arms. Is he going to come after me? I ask. There's a pause before he answers. A small one, but enough. Most likely, yes, he says. You interfered with his work. Men like him take professional insults seriously. He will not rush, though. He prefers long games. Moves that look like coincidences. Car crashes, I say, remembering the rail yard. Rail accidents. Rail suicides. You see the pattern, he says, which is both helpful and unfortunate. My fingers curl on my knees under the table. So, I'm a loose and wearing your house arrest like a shield. I say, you are a witness, he says. You saw him, you saw the exchange, you connected the ring. That makes you valuable and vulnerable at the same time. It also means we expand the circle of suspects. From your rivals, I say, to whoever had enough money to hire him. Not just money, he says. Money and purpose. Victor chooses contracts that interest him. If he is taking work in my city, it is either because an old enemy has grown new teeth or because someone with reach is trying to clean house. Not the usual turf squabbles. Something more strategic. The study feels smaller now. The city outside the window suddenly looks like a board on which pieces are moving, controlled by hands I will never see. And you intend to find out who it is, I say. I intend to make sure they understand that they chose the wrong target, he says. But first I need names. Patterns. People who have something to gain from a quieter waterfront and a dead Rizzo. He presses a button on the intercom by his desk. Rinaldi, he says, bring the file we discussed. There's a short wait. During it, I look again at Victor's photographs. He appears in different cities, different clothes, always near the edge of important rooms. Sometimes he smiles, a thin, distant thing. In no shot does he look surprised. The door opens and Rinaldi enters, carrying a thicker folder this time. He places it on the desk, opens it, and reveals several printed spreadsheets, photographs, and a list of dates. Known appearances of our Stormbird at private venues, he says, cross-referenced with guest lists, security logs, and local incidents that followed within 3 months. He flips past the first pages. Names of clubs in other countries. Casinos. Country houses. Then he reaches a section flagged with a small yellow tab. These are closer to home, he says. Functions he may have attended as a guest shadow in the last 2 years. Charity dinners, investor meetings, select lounges. Il Lanternino appears on that list for the first time last month. Beside each event is a column of high-profile guests. Politicians, business owners, philanthropists, people whose names you see in newspapers, not on bar tabs. My gaze schemes down the list, half understanding, half drifting. Then it stops. A name jumps out at me, sharp as a shout. For a second I think I have read it wrong. I lean closer. No, it is there, printed in clean type. Someone I know. Someone who should never be on a list like this. My hand tightens on the edge of the desk. What is it? Orazio asks. I point to the line, my pulse suddenly loud in my ears. That, I say. I know that name. Orazio leans over the file. His eyes narrow as he reads it. Counselor Luca Perini, he says. You know him how? I have seen him on television. I answer. He shows up during the evening news sometimes, talking about cleaning up the docks, breaking the clans, reforming the city. He likes microphones. Rinaldi nods. Perini has built half his reputation on speeches about order. A modern reformist, they call him. Reformist. On screen, he looks polished, well-fed, and full of outrage at the right moments. People in my neighborhood laugh bitterly at his promises. They know what happens when politicians want to tidy up a street. Ordinary people get pushed out first. I look again at the name. Here, in this list, printed beside a venue only people with deep pockets visit, it feels different. He is not just a man who reads prepared statements. He shows up where Victor shows up. Why would he be connected to that man? I ask. That, Orazio says, smoothing the page with one hand, is what we're going to find out. Rinaldi pulls out a stack of dates on a calendar sheet and spreads them across the desk like a quiet storm. Each line holds 2 or 3 elements: an event, a partial guest list, and a notation that Victor, the Stormbird, was seen or suspected nearby. Look here, Rinaldi says. 3 months ago, charity auction at the Pier Museum. Perini gave a speech about preserving local culture. Victor was photographed entering through the kitchen service door. Another page. Private concert hosted by a shipping company. Perini attended as guest of honor. Victor signed into the car park under an alias we have linked to him before. Another. Closed meeting for urban redevelopment owners. Perini present. Victor seen in the lobby on grainy footage. A pattern forms. Slow at first, then unmistakable. So he is chasing more than votes. I say, he is building something with people like Victor. He is building a reputation, Rinaldi says. He wants higher office. He wants to be remembered as the man who tamed the city. Corruption cleaned, clans dismantled, waterfront reclaimed. And he cannot do that. I ask. He can, Orazio says, if someone helps him. Someone who removes the players he cannot touch in public. Someone who makes problems vanish in ways that look natural. My stomach tightens. And the rival families. They would support him, Orazio says, tapping another entry on the list, if he quietly ignored their expansion once my name was out of the picture. They get territory. He gets power. Victor gets a contract. Everyone wins. Except you, I say. And anyone who depends on the balance I maintain, he answers. Perini's ideas about order are built on the bones of people who cannot afford to relocate. He wants to break everything at once and hope the pieces fall in his direction. I think of the neighbors who scrape together rent month after month. The market stalls that rely on late-night deliveries. The people who live where the city planners never visit. Men like Perini do not see them. They see land. And Gallo, I say slowly, turning the pieces over in my mind. He was the link inside Il Lanternino. The lounge is neutral ground. No one expects moves to happen there. If Perni's people needed a clean space to work in, Gallo was perfect. The management looks the other way if the money flows. Rinaldi exchanges a look with Orazio. I cannot tell if it is surprise or approval. Not bad, Orazio says. Most people assume these things are simple. One betrayal, one bad actor. You look at the structure. I grew up watching power tip in different directions, I say. It hurts ordinary people every time. Then you understand what is at stake, he says. Perini is not coming after me because I insulted him. He wants the city shaped in his image. The clans are obstacles. The Rizzo name is the largest one. And Victor is the tool, I say. He is the storm before the new order, Orazio answers. He clears the field. A cold feeling runs down my spine. I picture that pale coat in the corner of the lounge. The ring. The envelope. If he looked at me, even once, I do not remember it. That thought is worse. So what now, I ask? We assume he will not stop, Orazio says. He will adjust, choose a different angle, a different place. A more public location, perhaps, so no one suspects foul play. Something that looks like chance. He could strike anywhere, I say. Yes, he replies, which means we no longer wait for him. We go where he will go. Rinaldi closes the folder. There's an upcoming cultural fundraiser, he says, hosted at the Historic Gallery by the river. Perini will attend. Many donors and quiet power brokers as well. Preliminary security lists suggest that Victor may be nearby in the days leading up to it. The gallery. I have passed it many times. It is beautiful from the outside, heavy stone and tall windows. Inside, it is a maze of quiet halls and marble floors that echo softly. A perfect place for whispers. A perfect place for accidents. We will confirm his presence when the final guest lists settle, Rinaldi adds. Orazio's eyes meet mine. They hold none of the cold distance from before. There is something sharper now. Calculated. Intentional. You will attend with me, he says. What? I breathe. Your eyes are the reason I am alive, he says. And they may be the reason we survive the next move. The room stays silent after that, as if even the walls understand that some decisions cannot be undone, and some paths cannot be stepped off once your foot touches them. The silence breaks not with raised voices, but with the steady rhythm of work. Rinaldi returns ashort while later carrying a slim portfolio and a tablet. Behind him steps a woman with a rolling case. Neat hair, sharp clothes, eyes that catalog everything. She introduces herself only as Elena. We are building your new skin, she says. Name, background, presentation. You'll need all three. The portfolio opens on the desk. Inside are drafts of documents. A new surname, one that fits the story of someone who might have grown up abroad, traveled for school, and landed in administrative roles before joining a private office. I stare at the paper, at the person I am supposed to become. Sandra Carini, born in Marseille, speaks French and English, skilled in communication. It needs to be light, Rinaldi says, nothing that attracts unnecessary checking. Enough history to hold up a casual conversation. Nothing more. Elena studies my posture as I read. The fundraiser is not a place for improvisation, she says. Your job is to appear as if you have always moved in these circles. Personal assistants are invisible but essential. You stay close to your employer, anticipate interruptions, and keep your expression calm. I take a breath. What does calm look like at events like this? Neutral interest, she says, as if everything is familiar, even when it is not. The training begins. She walks me through how to hold invitations without bending them, where to stand when people speak to Orazio, how to keep my shoulders loose but my attention sharp. She teaches me how to project quiet confidence, the kind that tells others I belong without needing to convince them. It feels strange at first, like learning how to inhabit a different skeleton. We rehearse greetings. We practice silence. We practice the art of appearing to observe nothing while observing everything. Orazio joins us halfway through. He watches me as I repeat the scripted lines. You are meant to listen more than you speak, he reminds me. You will hear names, hints, nervous laughter. Watch the donors with too much money and not enough shame. Watch Bernie's aides. Watch unfamiliar guards, especially the one who tries the hardest to look forgettable. I nod, try to absorb it all. The old fear in my ribs is still there, but layered now with something steadier. Focus. When a session ends, Elena steps back. She learns fast, she says. Good, Orazio replies. She will need to. Later, a guard knocks and hands me the secured phone. You have permission, he says. 5 minutes. My breath catches. I go back to my room and sit on the edge of the bed before pressing the call button. It rings once. Hello, Matteo says, his face appearing on the screen. He is wearing the shirt he sleeps in most nights, hair sticking up slightly. He smiles the moment he sees me. Sandy, you look different. I got the job, I say, keeping my voice steady. The overseas one. I had to move fast. I could not call before they flew me out. His eyebrows lift. Real job? Real money? Yes, I say, hoping he cannot hear the lie beneath the truth. Good money. Enough for rent and your meds. He laughs softly, rubbing his forehead. I knew it. I told Lena you would leave that place behind someday. I swallow hard. How is your knee? Annoying, he says, but manageable. I will be fine. You better be fine too. I promise him I am. I tell him I will call again soon. When we hang up, the relief hurts almost as much as the guilt. He believes the story. For now, the house grows quiet as evening settles. I walk without purpose through the corridor and stop when I reach a door left slightly open. Inside, the room is lined with framed photographs. This must have been a family space once, though no one has told me anything about it. I step in. The photos span years. Some are old enough to show curled paper edges. A man and woman stand beside a young boy and 2 older siblings. Later pictures hold only the boy and his father. Then only the boy. Then the boy grown into the man I know. The smiles fade as the years go on. I look at a picture of Orazio at 16, standing beside a fishing boat. He is thinner, jaw still soft with youth, eyes already carrying the weight of something he did not ask for. "You found that room," a voice says behind me. I turn. Orazio stands in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "I did not mean to intrude," I say. "It is not intrusion," he replies. "This is the part of the house I do not use. People fill their walls with ghosts when they forget to put them to rest." I glance back at the photographs. "Your family built everything you protect now, and everything Pareni wants to erase," he says. He calls it cleansing, renewal, progress. He forgets that the city is made of more than blueprints. People have lived here for generations. People who will be pushed aside. There is something in his voice that is not anger, not quite sorrow, but a shadow of both. "Why tell me this?" I ask. "Because you think I do this out of vanity," he says. "Or pride, or greed. Maybe I used to. Not anymore. Now I do it, because taking down my name would give men, like Pareni, permission to tear up everything around it. The distance between us feels thinner. Not gone, but less impossible." I hold his gaze and feel a quiet pull. Not romance, not hunger. Something rawer, older. Recognition. It frightens me because I know what power he holds. It frightens me more because part of me steps toward it without thinking. We say nothing for a moment. The past stares from the walls. The future waits in the gallery. When I return to my room later, a garment bag lies across the bed. Inside is a tailored black dress, simple, clean lines, the kind worn at high-level events. Shoes sit beside it, polished and elegant. On the desk, documents await my signature. Identity papers, background details, the illusion of a life I have never lived. Rinaldi arrives to run security drills. Entry routes, exit plans, where I stand if there's a signal, who I approach, who I avoid, everything rehearsed, every movement mapped. By the time he leaves, the room feels smaller. Or perhaps I feel larger inside it. I change and stand before the mirror. The woman who looks back at me wears calm in her shoulders. Her hair sits neatly pinned. Her eyes seem older. I barely recognize her. Was I really the same girl who slipped notes across tables and tried to stay unnoticed? Or did that girl disappear somewhere between the poisoned glass and the locked door? A knock sounds. A guard steps in. "The cars will be ready at sunset tomorrow," he says. "Rinaldi asks that you rest." He pauses, then adds, "There is also a message. Pareni is bringing a special guest consultant to the fundraiser." My pulse jumps. "Victor," I say. The guard nods. All signs point to him. The word hangs in the air long after the guard leaves. Victor. I sleep in pieces after that. Short stretches of shallow rest, broken by flashes of a pale coat and silver wings engraved in metal. By the time the sun climbs high enough to touch the bars, my nerves feel stretched thin. The day passes in slow, careful motions. Final checks. Last reminders. Elena returns to tidy my hair and adjust the dress. She smooths a hand over the fabric, nods once, and says, "Remember, you are background until you choose not to be." At sunset, we descend to the foyer. The house feels oddly formal tonight. Guards in darker suits, radios at their cuffs. Orazio waits near the door, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that sits on him like another kind of armor. A slim donation envelope rests in his hand. He looks less like a man walking into an ambush and more like one attending an ordinary cultural event. "Ready?" he asks. "No," I say, "but I'm going anyway." A flicker passes through his eyes. Approval, perhaps. He offers his arm. I take it. We step into the night. The historic gallery rises above the river like a stone ship. Wide marble steps lead up to tall doors framed by carved figures. Light spills from the entrance, warm and inviting. It pools on the steps and glints on the polished shoes of arriving guests. Cars ease in and out of the drop-off lane, engines low, drivers careful. We climb the stairs at an even pace. Cameras watch from tuck corners. I catch sight of small dark domes fixed to the stone, almost hidden by decorative molding. The lighting has been arranged to flatter art and faces while keeping the lenses in shadow. At the top, staff in elegant black guide guests inside. A security gate stands just beyond the doors discreet but unavoidable, flanked by metal detectors and two guards with practiced eyes. A woman with a tablet smiles at us. "Senior Rizzo," she says, "thank you for supporting the gallery. Culture is good for the city," he answers, handing over the envelope. "I like good things for my city." The smile tightens at the edges. She gestures us forward. We pass through the metal detectors. They hum softly as we step. Another officer gives Orazio a quick pat along the arms and sides, careful not to look disrespectful, but thorough enough to show they are not relying on machines alone. When he reaches me, his touch is lighter. Checks at the waist, wrists, the small clutch Elena insisted I carry. He nods us onward. "They expect trouble," I murmur. "They expect the kind they understand," Orazio says. "Not the kind that wears rings." Inside, the lobby opens into a long hall lined with marble columns and paintings in heavy frames. The lighting is soft and angled upward, making the ceilings glow. Waiters move smoothly through the crowd with trays of champagne. Strings play in the corner, a piece that sounds expensive and forgettable at the same time. I slip into my role. I stay close to Orazio's right side, clutch in hand, expression neutral. I accept invitation cards for later exhibits. Note the names of those who press his hand a little too hard, and listen. Conversations layer over each other in Italian, English, French. Donors laugh a little too loudly. Someone complains about taxes. Someone else jokes about crime like it is bad weather. My body remembers the rhythm of Il Lanternino. How to move through small spaces without bumping anyone. How to listen without staring. Only the faces have changed. The suits cost more, the smiles are sharper, but the currents underneath feel familiar. A murmur ripples near the far end of the hall. People turn. Cameras rise like a small forest of glass and black metal. Counselor Luca Perini has arrived. He walks with practiced ease, flanked by aides who carry folders and smartphones. The cameras capture his handshake with the gallery director. He looks sincere, concerned, ready to fight for a safer city. At least that is what the image says. He approaches us with a smile already in place. "Senior Rizzo," he says, "thank you for attending. It is important for leaders on both sides of the law to support culture." The words are polite. The edge under them is not. "Counselor," Orazio replies, "I was curious to see what we are preserving before you tear everything down." They shake hands. For a moment, flashbulbs pop. The press loves contrasts. Reformist politician and rumored crime boss, united in their appreciation for art. Times change. Perny says, voice low enough that the nearest camera cannot pick up the words. The city will be cleaner, safer. Certain names will belong to history instead of headlines. Names come and go, Orazio answers. Streets remember who actually kept them from burning. Their smiles for the cameras never falter. To anyone watching from a distance, this is simply a cordial exchange between two influential men. I stand at Orazio's side, eyes down, the perfect assistant. As Perny moves on, shaking more hands, I let my gaze travel upward. A balcony runs along the second level, overlooking the main hall. Guests lean against the balustrade with drinks, looking down on the crowd. Among them, one figure stands a little apart. No pale coat tonight, just a dark suit that blends into the shadows. But the posture is the same. Relaxed, detached, watching the staff more than the art. When he lifts his glass, the light catches the silver on his right hand. Wings spread, head turned to the side. Victor, my heart stutters. I force my breathing to stay even. I cannot stare. Not now. Instead, I let my gaze drift on, as if admiring the sculpture at the end of the hall. Under my breath, I say, balcony. West side, by the third column. Orazio does not look up immediately. He lifts his glass, takes a slow sip, and lets his eyes follow mine as if he is simply taking in the room. He sees him. His jaw tightens for half a second, then smooths. Stay calm, he says quietly. Observe. The evening unfolds in layers. Speeches in the central gallery about preserving heritage. Toast to donors. Guided tours through side halls where paintings hang in soft pools of light. The crowd splits and reforms, a shifting pattern of alliances and deals wrapped in compliments. I move with Orazio, taking invitations, checking program times, whispering reminders about who is waiting to speak with him. All the while, my attention scans the edges. Victor does not hurry. He drifts from balcony to hallway, always near exits, always at a vantage point. He speaks to almost no one. It is other people who angle toward him. A shipping magnate with a heavy ring on his own finger. A security contractor whose laugh sounds too loud. A woman from a real estate fund who never lets go of her phone. I notice who meets his eyes and who avoids them. I notice how long they stand too close. The fragments of talk that float my way are thin but suggestive. Expansion zone near the docks. Once the council approves the plan, no one will ask the wrong questions. In a side room hung with modern pieces, I pass near Parini and a man I recognize from Orazio's files. A rival boss who has been pushing into the southern harbors. They stand by a window that looks out over the river, voices lowered. Once tonight is over, the rival says, the harbor will have only one flag. As it should, Parini replies. Clean lines, clean accounts. The rest belongs to history. I pretend to check my phone, as if reading a message, and drift past. They do not see me. Back in the main hall, Orazio speaks with old allies. Some clasp his hand with real warmth. Others look over his shoulder, weighing probabilities. They can feel the pressure. If Parini's plan succeeds, the balance of power will tilt. No one wants to stand on the wrong side when it settles. Some of them smell blood. I say quietly when there is a moment between greetings. Let them, he answers. It makes him sloppy. Near the catering entrance, I pause for breath. The servers are busy refilling trays. I stand partly behind a column, listening to the flow of movement when a prickle runs down my spine. One of the men who has been shadowing Victor stands a few meters away, leaning against the wall. His eyes are on me, not curious, assessing. I raise my wrist to my ear as if adjusting an earring and step toward the kitchen door. Excuse me, I say to a passing waiter. The coordinator wanted to confirm the timing for the dessert course. The waiter nods, used to this kind of invisible pressure, and answers quickly. I murmur thanks, scribble an imaginary note on my program, and walk back toward the main hall with the efficient air of someone attending to small details. The guard watches, then glances away. Staff checking schedules is normal. Assistants appearing where logistics are discussed is normal. Listening at corners is not. I make sure I look like the first two and not the third. Time stretches. Music changes. Guests drift toward a roped-off area on the upper floor, where a special exhibit is set to open. There is murmuring about a rare piece on loan, something that justifies the level of security. From my position near the base of the stairs, I see Parini take the lead, guided by the curator. Cameras follow. Flashbulbs spark. The public image continues. Off to the side, near a door marked staff only, Victor stands with a program in his hand. He watches the ascending crowd as if measuring their weight. At a subtle nod from him, one of his men moves toward the back corridor. The hairs on my arms rise. He slips through a side door a few minutes later with Parini at his shoulder. The sign above indicates a restricted exhibit room. The curator does not follow. No cameras. No staff. I move closer to Orazio, touch his elbow lightly, the signal we agreed on for something critical. Restricted room, I say under my breath. Parini and the Stormbird. No cameras. No guides. Understanding flickers in his eyes. He lifts his glass, masking the shift of his expression from anyone watching. Time, he says to no one in particular. He raises his hand slightly. Across the room, two of his guards adjust their positions. One touches a radio at his cuff in a pattern that looks like nothing at all to anyone not trained to recognize it. Rear exit, Orazio says softly. Get ready for movement. No one leaves without eyes on them. The guard nods once and slides away into the crowd. Orazio turns back to me. We go in, he says. My mouth goes dry, but I nod. This is why I am here. This is the moment we have been walking toward since the night at Il Lanternino. We cross the hall together, moving toward the door marked for staff. The crowd is thinner here, mainly security and a few curious donors who have been gently turned away. The lighting drops, colder, more practical. As we reach the doorway, a a man steps in front of us. Dark suit, gallery badge, earpiece. His smile is polite, professional, and as firm as a locked gate. "Good evening," he says. "May I see your identification again, Signorina?" My pulse stutters, but the training Elena drilled into me rises like a shield. I hold my expression steady, professional. "Of course," I say, taking out the slim badge tucked inside my clutch. Senior Rizzo has a scheduled donor discussion inside. I am required to be present to manage his documents and translation notes. I glance up just long enough to appear mildly inconvenienced, not scared. Orazio catches the cue. His voice stays even. "We were told to use this entrance to avoid crowding the main exhibit. My assistant needs to be with me." The guard checks the badge, frowning slightly. He does not see anything wrong, but something in his earpiece makes him hesitate. "Apologies, Senior," he says. "Only you may enter. Assistants wait here." That single sentence snaps the plan in two. Orazio's eyes shift to mine. A calculation passes between us, fast and wordless. He nods as if accepting the restriction, but I can see the resistance under his calm. "Wait here," he tells me softly. "Do not move unless necessary." The guard opens the door. Orazio steps inside. The door closes behind him with a soft, final click. My pulse drops to my stomach. I cannot follow through the main entrance, but I know the layout better than this guard thinks. Earlier, when the catering staff rushed in and out during setup, I noticed a narrow service passage bending around the restricted wing. It had a half-open supply door, barely used, almost invisible. I walk away as if simply stepping aside, then slip behind a column. When no one is looking, I move quickly down the corridor to the service door. The passage is narrow, lined with crates and folded tablecloths. The air smells faintly of cleaning solvent. At the end is a wall, thin plaster over old stone, with a square ventilation grate. Voices pass through it, muffled but clear enough. "The mistake at Il Lanternino cannot happen again," Perini says. "If witnesses remain, the public narrative becomes fragile." Victor answers, his tone light, almost amused. "Loose ends disappear. They always do. Your manager friend has already proven how useful a little staging can be." Gallo, the rail yard, the fake note. My stomach twists. Another voice, Orazio. Unmoved, buying time. "We are discussing the timeline, not dead men. If you expect the city to believe you tamed the docks, you need a smoother transition. You worry about perception," Perini says. "But perception wins elections." I pull out the secure phone. My hand shakes as I hit record. Victor speaks again. "Once the harbor is cleared, the contract moves to phase 2. And any witness connected to the note, well, that resolves itself." My blood runs cold. I do not think. I move. At the end of the service passage is a second door, staff only, barely marked. I push it open and step into the restricted room. 3 men turn. Perini stiffens first, eyes widening. Victor's gaze sweeps over me, as if I am a misplaced vase rather than a threat. Orazio's shoulders tighten, not in fear, but in readiness. "I believe," I say, steadying my voice, "you were discussing how witnesses disappear." The silence stretches. Victor tilts his head, studying me like a scientist examining a new species. Perini recovers first. "This room is for authorized personnel only. Leave immediately." "No," I say. "Not until all 3 of you hear what I recorded." Orazio steps forward, placing himself slightly between me and the others. Her phone, Perini snaps. "Take it." Orazio's tone cuts through the room like a blade. "If any of you move toward her, the recording goes to everyone who has been waiting for a reason to drag your name through the courts." Perini freezes. Orazio continues, calm and lethal. "My people are already sending it. A journalist, a judge, a council member who hates you but pretends otherwise. All loyal, already." Victor lets out a quiet, thoughtful hum. "You said nothing about recordings." "You did not ask," Orazio replies. Victor's eyes shift to Perini. "This contract is now contaminated. Too many ears, too many hands. I do not work under exposure." "You cannot walk away," Perini hisses. "Oh, I can," Victor says, "and will. He steps back, expression unchanged. Find another fixer. I leave tonight. Perny looks at the door as if calculating escape routes. If this goes public, it will not, Orazio says. Provided you redirect your campaign. You stop mentioning my family. You stop hinting at cleaning the harbor with a single stroke. Instead, focus on infrastructure, youth centers, anything harmless. And if I refuse, Perny asks, then your secret meetings surface, Orazio says. Every one of them, including this one. The counselor looks from Orazio to Victor to me. His future, his power, his polished image. They all hang in a narrow space between these men. Finally, slowly he nods. Fine. We reconsider strategy. It is not a victory. Not fully. But the battlefield has shifted. Security noise rises outside the corridor. Orazio's guards intercepting the rival faction that came early to finish the ambush. But thanks to the loud music and the layout of the gallery, the public event continues without panic. Victor brushes past me on his way out. As he does, he murmurs, for someone who used to pour drinks, you are awfully disruptive. He leaves without looking back. Perny straightens his jacket. This is not over, Rizzo. No, Orazio says. It is not. The counselor exits through a side door, already plotting alternatives. Orazio turns to me. We leave. Now, we move quickly through the staff corridor, past confused guards, and out to the rear exit where our car waits. The moment the doors close and the noise of the gallery fades, a heavy silence fills the vehicle. For several minutes, neither of us speaks. The city lights blur past the windows. Somewhere across them lies the version of my life where I worked double shifts and try to stay invisible. That life feels like something I have outgrown or lost, maybe both. Finally, Orazio asks, do you want to go back to a world where no one knows your name? I think of Matteo, of the cramped apartment, of the bar lights and the nights that all looked the same. I think of the note I wrote with shaking hands. The moment everything changed. That life is gone, I say quietly. Even if I tried to return, it would not be the same. He watches me, waiting. So tell me, I ask, what will my work look like if I stayed on my own terms? Orazio's answer is soft, but certain. You will not be a prisoner. You will be someone whose instincts I trust. Someone who sees things others miss. I look out at the glowing streets, the sweeping bridges, the places where danger and opportunity hide in the same shadows. For the first time, I do not feel like furniture with a pulse. I feel like someone who might shape her own fate. The car pulls away from the gallery, turning onto a quiet road. Far above, on the balcony outside the restricted wing, Victor stands with his hands in his pockets. The Stormbird ring glints in the light as he watches the taillights vanish. A man steps beside him, offering a sealed envelope. For your next client, the man says. They want information about the waitress who ruined everything. Victor accepts the envelope with a faint, amused smile. Ah, he says, so her story continues.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.